pretty.
Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms. No longer burn to be brothers in arms. Through the fields of distraction, baptism of fire, I'll watch all your suffering as battle raged high. And though they did hurt me so bad, in fear and alarm, you did not deserve me, my brothers in arms. There's so many different worlds, so many different songs, and we have just one world, but we live in different ones. Now the sun's gonna help, and the moon's riding high. Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, but it's written in the starlight, and every line in your palm. Fools to make war on my brothers in arms.
I was in the sky, burning in your eyes. You look at me, baby, I wanna catch on fire. It's buried in my soul, like California gold. You found a light in me that I couldn't find. So when I'm all choked up, but I can't find the words. Every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts. When the sun goes down on the bed, won't play. I know
Excelências, distintas entidades, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, bom dia. Sejam bem-vindos ao segundo dia de trabalhos da Cimeira da Aliança pela Paz, realizada sob o lema Um apelo à paz, ao fim das guerras e ao respeito pelo direito internacional, uma iniciativa da Aliança das Civilizações das Nações Unidas em parceria com o Governo da República de Angola. Depois da sessão inaugural, realizada ontem, prosseguimos hoje com um programa de reflexão e partilha de experiências em torno do papel dos líderes religiosos, da juventude, das mulheres e da cooperação internacional na promoção da paz e da coexistência pacífica. Agradecemos a vossa presença e desejamos a todos uma excelente jornada de trabalho. Para as palavras de abertura desta sessão, convidamos Sua Excelência Miguel Ángel Moratinos, Subsecretário-Geral das Nações Unidas, Alto Representante para a Aliança das Civilizações das Nações Unidas e Enviado Especial da ONU para o combate à islamofobia.
Bom dia. It's a great pleasure to be.
É um grande prazer estar de volta novamente hoje.
Day of yesterday. Yesterday we have the chance to really kick off this peace summit, this conference of how to call for peace, end wars and respect international law, with the participation of the high-level segment with President João Lourenço and the President of Democratic Congo Republic, the Prime Minister of Namibia, outstanding personalities through video conferences. Today we are back here to start the second day in order to really continue to debate and to show our commitment towards this common objective that we all shared yesterday. Yesterday we had a fantastic, evening. I have to thank all the organizers, the Angolan leadership, the Angolan government, the Angola singers, the Angolan musicians that make us feel so close in this kind of communion, all of us singing together for a better world. And today we are going to restart this common road in order to achieve our, not a dream, but a necessity, an urgent need to create a better planet, a better earth, a better international community that shares the values of peace and mutual understanding. So thank you to be with us today. I have to salute first Excellency, the Minister of External Relations of Republic Angola, Tete Antonio, of course the Minister of State of Presidential Cabinet, Dionisio da Fonseca, who have been working with us to organize all this fantastic event. I have to commend also the presence of Your Excellency, Mr. Constanze de Luanda, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Congo, Your Virtue Sheikh Islam Pasasadi, Chairman of the Catholic Muslim Board and Co-Chair of Inter-Regional Council, and the Mayor of Jose Maria Gorroño, Mayor of Guernica, as well as religious leaders, young representatives, members of civil society, and all the participants in this forum. Yesterday, as I was saying, was the day of the decision makers. We need government, we need head of state, we need a prime minister, we need foreign minister, we need officials. But without the rest of society, this official, this head of state, this head of government, they will not able to implement their policy. So for that reason, we have proposed to have 4 round tables during 2 days, from the morning to the late afternoon, in order that we can together construct what I call the lobby for peace. There is a strong lobby for war. We all know where are they. They are playing golf in some camps, and they make a lot of money, and they influence the way we continue to support the conflict crisis. But where is the lobby for peace? Where is the actor in society? So the first one that have to guide us, the first roundtable will be, we need some guidance. And what better guidance than the spiritual guidance? For that reason, we have a call for a first roundtable with religious leaders that will give us the sense of ethic, the sense of values, the sense of principles, the sense that we can live together even we have differences or we belong to different faiths or different religions. So that it will be the first, round table in order that we'll be able, to really integrate the most important element that is spirituality that have to conduct our behavior. The second round table would be, of course, about, I don't know if a youth or woman who come first. Let me comment the young people. Yes, the young people, because are not the generation of the future. They are, I would say always, is the generation of today. Today, young people are very active, very concerned, very engaged to see what is going to be for the future, but to be preparing for the future, they have to take part and we have to listen from them. So I think the roundtable about how young people should give us, should criticize us, should revolt in order to ask for a better life for their future, I think is essential. The third roundtable will be how the women, essential element, essential contributor for peace. We all know the people who have been developing diplomacy like me or like other ministers of foreign affairs can really agree with me that every time that a woman is negotiating, a woman is mediating, a woman is trying to create this local, national, international understanding, they are much more efficient than we men that unfortunately we have not been able to create this empathy, this solidarity, this wish to live together. And we will have a very important also round table about how the conflict dynamic, how to understand the impact of mercenary activity. That was a proposal made by the Angolan government, Angolan leadership, and I think it was very right. Why? Nobody wants war. Nobody wants to send their children to a war. They don't want to have the army. So they apply to mercenaries just for getting money and then shooting and killing here and there with any patriotism, only just mercenaries. So I think that will give us a sense of how we should include that in our reflection and our debate. So I stop here because what we need is to start this interactive session, and I have again to thank the Angola president and of course the Angola government, the Angola people for a fantastic organization and the fantastic hospitality you have offered to all of us. So thank you very much, and now the master ceremony can continue. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos a intervenção de Sua Excelência Miguel Ángel Moratinos. Convidamos de seguida Sua Excelência Tete António, Ministro das Relações Exteriores da República de Angola.
Muito obrigado, bom dia a todos. Bonjour a tout le monde, good morning everyone. Depois das palavras do alto representante, Excelência Ministro de Estado, caros ministros, colegas, membros do governo, excelências em todas as vossas qualidades, distintos chefes de delegações, convidados, dignas autoridades religiosas, líderes das mulheres, líderes da juventude, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, e todo o protocolo observado, dizia que depois das palavras do representante só temos a acrescentar algumas observações que de facto vêm também reforçar o que ouvimos ontem ao longo das intervenções havidas durante a sessão de abertura presidida por Sua Excelência João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, Presidente da República de Angola. Ontem, portanto, foi reafirmado o compromisso coletivo com a paz, o diálogo, a cooperação internacional, o respeito pelo postulado na Carta das Nações Unidas, o primado da lei como premissas essenciais que devem guiar as relações entre os povos. Foi também claro ontem nas intervenções dos diferentes líderes que o direito internacional continua a constituir o fundamento essencial de uma ordem internacional assente na justiça, na igualdade de soberania dos Estados, na solução pacífica dos diferendos e no respeito pela dignidade da pessoa humana. Num momento em que o mundo continua marcado por guerras, conflitos prolongados, crises humanitárias e crescentes tensões geopolíticas, esta conferência, na verdade, representa um espaço privilegiado para renovar um apelo firme e inequívoco ao fim da violência, à rejeição da guerra como instrumento
of war as an instrument of referendums and the solution of peace as a collective solution of the international community, as it was also reaffirmed yesterday. Peace is not limited to the absence of war. Peace is built on a day-to-day basis through dialogue, mutual trust, justice, love, tolerance, inclusive development, the non-discrimination, respect of human rights, and fundamental freedom. It is built by giving priority to diplomacy despite of the confrontation. Peace is there where international right prevails and when cooperation replaces division. It is this vision that inspires the thematic sessions that we will have today. We will have the opportunity to follow debates on the role of religious leaders, of the youth, of the women, education for peace and international cooperation. All these reaffirm that the prevention of conflicts requires intervention centered on the people. The discussions are a very powerful platform to reinforce the international role in favor of peace, respect of international right, and multilateralism. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Republic of Angola, the country that hosts this event with open arms and that hosts this conference, knows the value of peace, which was reaffirmed yesterday by His Excellency, the President of the Republic, not only by its history, but the experience of people that transformed national reconciliation into a platform of reconstruction, strengthening of institutions and development. These experiences continue to inspire Angola's actuations in the regional and international plans, promoting preventing diplomacy, mediation, political dialogue, and pacific resolution of conflicts. It is in this spirit that it hosted a few days ago the second international forum on women, peace, and democracy on the on on the 29th to the 30th of August. We had we had an extraordinary summit of the head of states of the governments of the African Union to reinforce the mechanisms on prevention and conflict resolutions. And in October, we will have the fourth edition of Luanda Biennial for Culture, Peace, and Nonviolence. His Excellency João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, in his quality as the champion of peace and reconciliation of the African Union, dedicates to the cause of peace as
great role and valuable endeavors in deepening the environment of trust among civilizations are especially praiseworthy. May the God, Almighty Creator, grant success to the efforts of all who stand in solidarity for global peace. Esteemed participants, one of the supreme truths reflected in sacred scriptures revealed to humanity is that to kill even a single human being created by Almighty Lord is a crime as grave as of all humankind. The massacres perpetrated on the grounds of national, racial, and religious identity engraved in the collective memory of humanity are among the greatest and most unforgivable sins against humankind. It is our human duty to honor with reverence the memory of the victims of Guernica, Srebrenica, and similar human tragedies, and to unite our efforts so that such tragedies never occur again on earth. Our meeting in Luanda, held for the first time in the African continent, following the founding session in Guernica and subsequently Sarajevo, is a testament to the continuity of our activities aimed at protecting human life, the sacred value bestowed by the great Creator. Distinguished participants, the people of Azerbaijan are among the people subjected to the crime of mass massacre, a dreadful truth that the world community must know and to which it must render its just assessment. Every year, on February 26, we commemorate the anniversary of the genocide committed in 1992 in the city of Kojab, Azerbaijan, perpetrated by the aggressor neighboring state against Azerbaijans on the grounds of ethnic cleansing, in which 613 people were killed, including 106 women, 63 children, and 70 elderly persons. Esteemed participants, the cooperation between the state of Azerbaijan, which possesses a valuable historical experience of building bridges among representatives of various cultures and civilizations, and an exemplary model of tolerance reflecting coexistence, and the UN Alliance of Civilizations in the name of universal human interests, stands at the highest level. It is a source of pride for us that His Excellency Ilham Aliyev, President of Azerbaijan, renowned for his ideas and initiatives serving human fraternity and universal solidarity throughout the world, has been awarded the Guernica Prize for Peace and Reconciliation for his efforts toward achieving peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia and promoting a dialogue. I express my deep gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Moratinus, Under Secretary General of the United Nations and a distinguished High Representative of the Alliance of Civilizations, for his peace-loving activities, including his valuable efforts toward the establishment of peace in the South Caucasus, and I wish him new achievements. Today, at a time when wars continue, we must strive and pray, grounded in international law, for the triumph of justice in the world and of lasting peace rather than fragile ceasefires, and for the peaceful resolutions of the conflict in the Middle East and Ukraine. We thank the words of His Highness Alaisham Pazalat. We invite for the next intervention Mr. José María Oño, President, Mayor of Guernica in Spain.
Buenos días.
Good. Dear representatives of the UN Alliance of Civilizations, Excellency Tito Antonio, Minister of External Relations of the Republic of Angola, Mr. Al-Suku Pasasad, President of the Caucasian Group and President of the Interreligious Council, thank you very much for the invitation extended to me to attend this event in order to defend the most important thing that we have, the people, life. From Guernica, I'm bringing a message of peace to all people and highlight that Luanda is an example of the value of peace and reconciliation. Talking about Luanda is talking about a city that has learned the pain of the war, but also it has shown and has been showing its capacity of a people that is able to stand and build a future based on peace. Its history reminds us that peace is not mere lack of war and conflict. Rather, it is the presence of opportunities, dialogue, justice, and hope. For years, civil war has caused human, social, and economic losses. Without doubt, from Luanda as the capital city of the country, a process of national reconstruction was started that allowed to recover infrastructure and propel economic development, expand infrastructure, and strengthen confidence among citizens who for many years were split. The experience of Luanda teaches a lesson that the world should not ignore. The first lesson is that dialogue should prevail over confrontation. No war gives a valuable victory such as that one is achieved through political will and agreements. Peace demands respecting the differences and build consensus thinking on the upcoming generations. The second lesson to be learned is that reconciliation is an act of magnanimity and responsibility. People who decide to leave behind hatred and invest in unity show a a strong power that is bigger than any military uh, position. Uh, Reconciliation does not mean to forget the past, rather than to learn from it in order to prevent it from happening again. The third lesson is that peace should be translated into development and progress. When guns are silenced, it's when the true challenge starts to generate jobs, boost education, the health system, build roads, housing, and provide opportunity for everyone. Stability is only maintained and is durable only when citizens feel that peace improves their living standard. Luanda also has played and still plays an important role as a stage of regional dialogue. Participation of Angola in diplomatic initiatives in order to contribute towards stability in Africa promotes negotiations and has been supporting mediation process in various concepts. This shows that peace cannot be limited within the national boundaries, but it is a shared responsibility amongst people. Today, more than ever, the world needs to understand that peace is not a destination that we are going to arrive at one point and forever, but it is a daily task that requires leadership and responsibility, solid institutions, and citizens committed with respect to all. Peace is built when political disputes are not seen as conflict and they are transformed into opportunities in order to enrich and strengthen democracy. Rwanda gives us a lesson that after difficult moments, it's possible to rebuild a country. It shows us that the scars of the past can be converted into the strength that propels towards a better future. That's why let us make peace our utmost priority. Dialogue must replace confrontation, and may reconciliation beat the hatred, and may the example of Rwanda inspire all nations to understand that there is no wealth that is more important than the value of peace, because peace is a right to everyone, and also it is the biggest responsibility of everyone, of which we have the task to serve as our people. Thank you very much to you all.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished entities, ladies and gentlemen, we will shortly starting the first thematic session of the Summit of Peace Alliance that will take place under the motto, the role of religion and faith leaders in promoting dialogue and peaceful coexistence. To moderate this session, we invite His Excellency Mr. Miguel Angel Moratino, UN Under-Secretary and High Representative of Alliance for Civilization and Special Envoy for the fight against Islamophobia. We also call the following speakers: Cardinal John Onea Khan, Emeritus Archbishop of Abuja, Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Don Filomeno Nascimento Vieira Diaz, Metropolitan Archbishop of Luanda, Reverend Benjamin Mwende, Officer of Roman Curie for Interreligious Dialogue of the Holy See, Reverend Vladimir Agustin, Secretary General of the Council of Christian Churches in Angola, His Excellency Ambassador Musihailo Gebresedik, Regional Director and representative of Initiative or United Religion in Africa at the African Union, Father Celestino Epalang, Secretary General of Commission of Justice and Peace of the Conference of Bishops of Angola, Haima Muhammad Shafa, Director of Center of Mediation, Interreligious Mediation Center, Reverend Dr. James Movell Uyen, Co-Director of Mediation Center,
Está completo.
We have now the panel all composed.
Okay, I think your micro is working. It's okay. So thank you very much. We are going to start the first panel. This panel will explore through the role of faith actor, religious leader, as I said at my introductory remark, as the spiritual guidance that we should look forward in order to create this environment to defend peace and mutual understanding and respect. So we all know how during the history of humankind, science, religion, technology has been interacting. And there has been some kind of, sometimes that there was not a clear merge of the spirituality with the evolution of science or new frontier for humankind to adapt to the new world, the new chapter of humanity. This year, we are celebrating in Spain and Morocco a very outstanding personality. We said in Spanish, Averroes, in Rus. He was the great philosopher, the great thinker that 900 years ago was born in Cordoba, Spain, and then he investigated and make research how to combine science and religion, and demonstrated that they can live together and that they can interact together. So that is what will be this panel. To get from overview, of course, you are free to express your own views and your own thoughts about how religious leaders should play their responsibility and their contribution to create these much more peaceful societies. But in general terms, the main first question to all of you, and I will start one by one, the main is how you, as religious leader, could make a step forward, an added value in order to create this culture of peace. Secondly, the second question will be how this interfaith dialogue, I have participated in many with the Cardinal and some friends in interfaith dialogue, where we see that you will see they will agree in front of you, more or less. But the problem is when they go back home and they talk to their communities. Sometimes they do the right things, and I'm sure most of you do. But sometimes you go back to your own, let's say, minor circle to continue to see the other as different, as an adversary. So how this interfaith dialogue could make a step forward to create a common agenda that all religions, all faiths, all belief, you could join efforts on this common agenda. And my third question is more of today's, main concern as human beings, as humankind, that is every day we are discussing and analyzing the impact of what they have been called artificial intelligence. By the way, artificial intelligence was created by human intelligence. How human intelligence we are going to react, and how the religious leader, that is the element essential for human intelligence, should react. Because you know now, if you go to ChatGPT, they have created a new religion. They are competing with you. Sometimes they say, why I have to go to church, or I have to go to synagogue, or I have to go to the mosque. I go to the screen and I have my religion. Why I have to, to make iftar if I don't need iftar. I have a new type of iftar. Well, I don't have to have carême. No, I don't need carême. So how religion in this very strange world we are confronting show us that the spirituality is back and that people need this spirituality, call it in different religion, faith, belief, ethics. So that is my three main question I introduce this panel. So we have a very prominent panel. Of course, we have His Eminence Cardinal John Onajekan, Archbishop Emeritus of Abuja, Nigeria, good friend. You welcomed me in Nigeria with your friend, and we had a very interesting exchange. And you have been following the work of the Alliance from the day one. You are doing a fantastic job in your country, in Africa, regional meetings, and with this interfaith dialogue. So I will ask you to start to express your general comment. Of course, you can start a first remark and then we'll come back. I hope we will have time. I will try to not to speak too much myself. This is your time. And for that, Your Eminence, you have the floor.
Hello. Thank you very much, our good friend, Dr. Moratinos. We are told that we have only 5 minutes, so we dispense of all protocols. But at least I should say thank you to Dr. Moratinos and thank you to the government of Angola. Let me summarize my message. My message is as follows. The history of humanity has shown that religion has been often used and misused for conflict and for disorder. But we believe that religion should be able to be a positive element to face the challenges that our humanity faces right now. And my thesis, my position is that it is possible if we make the effort as religious leaders. If you don't hear anything more, this is the major point I have to make. Let me then read a few bits of my prepared speech. If the translators have my original speech, I apologize that I have to cut a lot of it, and I will read the last part only. Every generation tends to raise alarm about going through critical times. But developments in these last decades have plunged our human family not only into serious critical times, but into deep fears about the very continued survival of our human species. On the one hand, rapid technological progress has put a lot of power and skills into our hands, surpassing every human possibilities. On the other hand, we still have to find an effective way to ensure that these tremendous technological possibilities are deployed positively for the human shared sacred flourishing under God, lest we destroy ourselves. This is the poignant message and the deep concerns of Pope Leo XIV in his recent encyclical Magnificat Humanitas. This is also the context of our call for peace, the end of wars, and the respect of international law. We are faced with the stark choice between heeding the call for peace, for a harmonious, prosperous humanity, or plunging headlong into the abyss of global self-destruction. The choice is between life and death. It is not yet too late, but the choice is urgent. The urgent task is for humanity to design effective and binding ethical and moral principles that will guide the development and the deployment of these new, very dangerous tools. Ethical and moral norms are the special competence of religious institutions. We can therefore see here the role of religious leaders in offering guidance to both those who produce these gadgets and the civil authorities whose duty it is to control their use nationally and internationally. Faced with such a global existential challenge, religious institutions have no choice but to pull together their shared values and moral norms to jointly address humanity's common challenges. I believe it is fair to say that the Catholic Church has shown clear leadership in working for a common mind among the world's religions in addressing the challenges facing our human family. And this started with the Second Vatican Council some 60 years ago with the groundbreaking documents. I have no time to go into them. Lumen Gentium, Nostra Aetate, and Dignitatis Humanae on the church, on relationship with other religions, and on religious freedom, as well as the reforms and structures that followed in the Catholic Church. And that is why it has now become common, it has now become common to see people of different religions meeting to work for peace and unity of humanity. The fact that there are many Catholics on this panel is not by chance. It shows the reality of where my church stands. The United Nations Alliance of Civilization, which has convoked this very important and very timely conference, is a good example of this effort to bring religions together. There's also the well-known Religions for Peace International, with headquarters at the United Nations Plaza in New York, and with which I have been very much involved for over 30 years. Along these lines, I believe it's about time to consider a more structured and official organization of the major religions of the world to be able to speak together and work together under one God for the peace and the shared sacred flourishing of our human family. The annual Assisi meeting of world religions leaders, started by Pope St. John Paul II, is a step in this direction. The 2019 Abu Dhabi document on human fraternity, co-signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Sheikh of Al-Azhar, Al-Taib, provides very firm basis for working together beyond Catholics and Sunni Muslims. Let me conclude with a plea. Let me draw our attention to the crucial fact that in reality, we are faced with a multiplicity of religions in the world. Whatever sacred ambitions for dominance that any particular group may have, I am convinced that this pluralism is here to stay. We must therefore agree to live with it. My Christian Catholic faith gives me both the mandate and the duty to spread the gospel message of Jesus to all nations. That I have been doing for my 82 years of life, and will continue to do until God calls me to paradise. But at the same time, my Christian Catholic faith also allows me to see the hand of the Almighty and merciful God in the many religious communities that I see around me and with whom I must live day by day. I see this not as an aberration to be done away with, but as part of God's plan for humanity, in line with his own supreme wisdom. If we can all accept the fact of many religions under one God, in a spirit of mutual respect and submission to God, it will be much easier for religions to work together for peace among themselves and subsequently among all nations. Religions will not be able to be agents of peace in our world as they often claim to be, unless and until they manage to live in peace among themselves on the basis of truth, justice, and mutual respect. The time for this is long overdue. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. Inspiring contribution. You mentioned very important contribution of His Holiness the Pope Leo XIV, Manifesto Humanities. I recommend to all the audience to read it. It's a long encyclical. People don't read now, but they have to have the time to read. And of course, I think your reference to pluralism and how religious leaders can have a positive contribution to this peaceful world. So we will come back later on because I think an idea could take shape. You mentioned also that now is the time for structuring better this interface dialogue, including the relationship with the international organization. I will have that for my concluding remarks. So thank you very much, Eminence. And now I give the floor to His Eminence, Mr. Filomeno do Nascimento Vieira Diaz, Metropolitan Archbishop of the Catholic Archdiocese of Luanda, of Republic of Angola. You have the floor.
Excellency Mr. Moratinos, Secretary General Under Secretary High Representative for the Alliance of Civilizations of the UN. Honorable Minister of State for the Civil House of the President of the Republic of Angola, honorable representatives of institutions in the attendance, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we realized the universal concern for peace and the common conviction that violence nevermore could be a way to solve differences among people. In contrary, we reiterated that peace is built under respect. The sincere seek for agreements and the commitment of nations with the common good. We understood also that peace is a good and natural right. Peace is an appeal for man to man. It is the deep reivindication of man. Peace is essential to life, and life abundantly, as essential as daily bread and the air we breathe, either for the individual, for families, and for the society. The absence of peace is a problem. If we look at the history of civilizations, we realize that in each people, we realize the urge for peace is an essential aspiration, and known in a certain way for the urge for a full life, a successful life, which contradicts to disorder that is permanent in individuals and people, as if mutual relationships could not be regulated only by force. Here, I understand that we face one of the biggest challenges in our era, the building of a long-lasting peace based on dialogue, on human dignity, and of universal respect for human rights. Peace is an all, a challenge, a construction that has to mobilize in this way all social classes, intellectuals, philosophers, people of religion, artists, operators of mass media, and people of culture in all the world through to the promotion of fraternity and the lacerated human dignity, mobilizing the whole humanity to rediscover the values of peace, of justice, of good, of beauty, of human fraternity, and of common coexistence. Under this challenge, there is no doubt, rather, before this challenge, we put what we can do, what is expected from us, men and women of faith. Because this panel has as topic the role of the religious and faith leaders in promoting a dialogue and peaceful coexistence among people. I will not go deeper on the concept of peaceful coexistence. I go on. What is our role? Because faith lives in a body. There is no doubt that religion is still one of the biggest forces in humanity for thousands of people. Faith guides decisions and inspires behaviors. It frames identities and feeds hope. This strength of the religion gives religious leaders a unique responsibility in the promotion of peace, of reconciliation, and of fraternity among people. When faithful to its essence, all authentic religious tradition proclaims the value of human life, compassion, justice, forgiveness, and solidarity. Even if there are significant differences between different religions, or rather of different religions, there is a common ethnic heritage that constitutes a base for peaceful coexistence, able to bring together with feminist human communities. Religions teach each one in this way that our neighbor is not an enemy to eliminate, but a human being endowed with the same fundamental dignity. This principle constitutes one of the pillars of intercultural dialogue among civilizations, and of the construction of peace. However, the history traces back that religion can be instrumentalized to justify violence, to justify exclusion, to justify intolerance, and other types of abuses against the dignity of human being. It's also important to affirm without ambiguity, as it was already said, that no war can be legitimated on behalf of God. Human discrimination or violence against innocent can find authentic fundamentals in great spiritual traditions of humanity. Religious leaders, they have in this way the moral responsibility to denounce all faith manipulation for political ends, ideological ones, or even military ends. They have to promote religious leaders, different expressions of, of human spirituality, they have to promote a religious education that trains awareness open to dialogue, to respect for diversity, and for the commitment to the good of each people, because we in our social doctrine we say the commitment with common good, the good that harms no one but that is in service of all, in all moments and in all time. The Kantian principle of the universal dimension of good. Good is universal. Good is a good in all the time. For this reason, we have here the great challenge, the challenge of education for peace. Because given bloodshed associated with conflicts among religions because of the growth of extremism, even reasonable people can be tempted to conclude that religion is inevitably targeted to put people one against the others. For believers, it is necessary to live unarmed. Unarmed of what? Of absolutisms. The dialogue has to be imposed inter religions among several spiritual expressions. There has to be called a radical attention for peace. This is one of the objectives that I think of this time of meetings. I salute the UN and the Republic of Angola, the promoters of this. There is no favorable exit of humanity only with the fight for peace. It is a challenge that has to take the heads of nations. A challenge that has to take the heart of religions with a life awareness that we are before two single possibilities, either truly peace or catastrophic war. And religions, as I already said, are to favor a deep consensus in the affirming of values and binding as solidarity, hospitality, and care for others. And likewise, the decisive role of spiritual renovation of humanity, indicating a new cycle, building new times with courage to break with the historic weight of centuries of intolerance and arrogance, of indifference, of religious fights and static antagonisms and pathetic. We have, therefore, as people of faith, people that cultivate the spiritual dimension of man, announcing new times, times of impact and of the strength of faith now affirmed with prayer and fundamental values, most of them consecrated universally by the Charter of the UN and other agreements as the Helsinki 75 and so forth. As underlined Dalai Lama, the diversity of religions stops to be a problem. Religion's diversity has to stop being a problem, but the dawn of the human spirit and its long history. It is a deep statement. The uniformity of faith is a dream. Concluding, this is our contribution to humanity and to the world. A world that breathes more than the space of religion of each one of us, but convergent in good, in justice, in the beauty that unites cultures and civilizations. This is our deep conviction, the cause of our daily effort in destroy words and establish solid bridges for life. Thank you so much.
His Eminence, Mr. Filomeno do Nascimento Vieira Diaz, for your contribution. You raised several important issues. How you call peace, what is peace, what is the role of peace, how we build peace, and then we have to fight against instrumentalization of religion in order to justify some violence acts, some conflict, some crisis, and the importance of education for peace. Now we move to Reverend Father Buenaventura Benjamin Luanda, official of the Dicastery for Interracial Dialogue, section for Islam in Africa and Traditional Religion. He's our friend from the Holy See, from Rome. You are most welcome. You salute His Holiness the Pope from Leon XIV and Cardinal Parolin, all my friends. So we have somebody from Rome under your guidance, you know. So you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Excellency Miguel Maratinos, Under Secretary General and the High Representative for the United Nations Alliance of Civilization. So, Your Eminence, Excellencies, esteemed religious and faith leaders, honorable civil authorities, dear friends. I bring you the cordial greetings of the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue and its prefect, His Eminence Cardinal George Jacob Kovacad, who regrets being unable to join us today due to a prior commitment. I also express my sincere gratitude to the United Nations Alliance of Civilization and to the government of Angola for convening this timely roundtable where faith, reason, and our shared responsibility meet in the service of a lasting peace. Religious leaders are often regarded as trusted figures able to diffuse tensions and foster social cohesion. Yet, we must also acknowledge that religion has at times been misused to justify division and violence rather than reconciliation and peace. This is precisely where our shared leadership is most urgently needed, to act before tensions escalate into conflict. Recognizing this reality does not diminish the power of our respective faith traditions. Rather, it strengthens our responsibility to ensure that they remain forces for peace. With this conviction, I now turn to the three questions before us. Towards more effective conflict prevention and reconciliation. Every lasting peace begins with recognizing the inviolable dignity of every human person. For Christians, this dignity is rooted in our creation in the image of God. The first observation that we are all human beings. As the Second Vatican Council's document, Dignitatis Humanis, the dignity of the human person, teaches the dignity of the human person is the foundation of all the rights and the duties that flow from it. Pope Leo XIV warns that a culture of power characterized by polarization and violence undermines the pursuit of the common good. Now, how can religious and faith leaders contribute more effectively? By building relationship of trust before crisis arises, fostering a culture of encounter, a culture of love, and Pope Leo calls a civilization of love, and speaking with a united moral and religious voice whenever human dignity is threatened. The Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue promotes this mission by strengthening cooperation among religious communities, convinced that every authentic religious tradition possesses moral and spiritual resources that can contribute to peace. It encourages regional dialogue, accompanies local initiatives, and promotes the formation of religious leaders and pastoral agents as builders of peace. This commitment becomes concrete when churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, and other places of worship are respected, protected by law, and work together to counter hate speech, mediate tensions, assist displaced families, and promote mutual respect. Long before formal negotiations begin, these local networks often possess the trust and the credibility needed to prevent conflict and sustain reconciliation. From the Christian perspective, Jesus recommends a gradual path to reconciliation through interpersonal dialogue, the support of the immediate witnesses as one of the best practices, and the implication of the wider community, while recognizing the limits of reconciliation when every effort has been exhausted, without abandoning charity. This approach can also inspire interreligious engagement, reminding us that conflict should be addressed with discretion, respect, and unwavering regard for human dignity. Interreligious dialogue is an essential means of social cohesion. Where a culture of power divides and dominates, Pope Leo XIV proposes a civilization of love that translates charity into structures of justice, giving institutional form to fraternity. Interreligious dialogue promotes this vision by fostering encounter and mutual respect, transforming religious diversity into a force for truth, justice, and peace for the common good. The Second Vatican Council, Nostra Aetate, a document that is well known by most people, affirms that the Church rejects nothing that is true and holy in other religions, and regards with sincere reverence all that reflects a ray of that truth, which enlightens all humanity. Similarly, Pope Leo XIV reminds us that at the heart of the great spiritual path lies a message of peace. Our religions have a mission for peace. Freed from the poison of fundamentalism, radicalism, religious traditions can draw on their spiritual wisdom and moral values to ease tensions, prevent extremism, and inspire prophets of peace, justice, forgiveness, and solidarity. Let us therefore deepen our dialogue with prudence, love, and mutual respect, recognizing and promoting the spiritual, moral, and social cultural values that unite our peoples. The Catholic Church seeks to contribute to this shared task through the following enduring instruments and practices. First, the Declaration Nostra Aetate has been a guiding document for the Catholic Church. And when we speak of the Catholic Church, we are speaking about 1.4 billion of people in the world. This document opened new paths of dialogue with followers of other religions. The second instrument is the document on human fraternity for the world peace and living together, jointly signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Azhar, Ahmed Ataib. Another instrument that the Catholic Church is offering to foster peace, the annual goodwill messages for major religious feasts, including Eid al-Fitr for Muslims, Disparval for Hindu, Vesak for Buddhists, and other religions. A third instrument that the Catholic Church provides to foster peace is the Holy Father annual message for the World Day of Peace, which is inspired by the gospel called, "Blessed are the peacemakers." These initiatives are not merely gestures of courtesy. They build mutual trust, strengthen social bonds, and renew our shared commitment for peace and human fraternity. Interreligious dialogue counters intolerance, discrimination, and hate speech in at least 3 concrete ways. First, by enabling believers to reject the manipulation of religion for military, economic, or even for political gain. Second, by encouraging religious communities to disarm worlds in order to help disarm the world, and rejecting narratives that divide humanity into friends and enemies. And third, by fostering a united and credible witness against prejudice and discrimination, showing that faith can serve reconciliation and the common good. The last question: effective approaches to strengthening partnership for peace. No religion or civil institution can build peace alone. For building a world in which everyone can flourish requires shared responsibility and courage. Effective partnership for peace require mutual respect, clear roles, lasting structures for cooperation, and a shared commitment to the common good. Allow me to highlight 3 practical approaches that I propose to the assembly here. First, we must respect our distinct roles and responsibilities. The Church does not seek to replace the state or the United Nations or any public institution, but esteems those who serve the common good, offering its moral guidance and spiritual resources while respecting the proper competencies of each partner. This is expressed through the 2 complementary dimensions. First, the Holy See's engagement with the states and international organizations through the Secretariat of the State of the Holy See. And second, the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue's task of fostering fraternal relationship with the followers of other religious traditions. Second, we must build enduring platforms for cooperation. Dialogue cannot rely on occasional meetings alone. It requires enduring structures and partnerships that address today's challenge. To this end, the dicastery promotes cooperation through agreements, joint declarations, and common initiatives, while supporting networks such as Interreligious Network of Women Building a Culture of Encounter, and also fostering the interreligious formation of young people as protagonists of peace. And to do this, we have proposed a guide for teaching Islam, traditional religions, and other religions in higher institutions, especially in Africa.
You should conclude now.
The third proposal, we must translate dialogue into concrete action. Religious communities should unite their voices and efforts whenever human dignity is threatened through common appeals, peace education, humanitarian cooperation, and reconciliation initiatives. By way of conclusion, religious and faith leaders, guided by our deepest moral and spiritual values, have a vital role in building peace. By defending human dignity, fostering a culture of encounter and love, countering discrimination and hate speech, and strengthening partnerships for the common good, we can help transform conflicts into opportunities for reconciliation and peaceful coexistence. As Pope Leo reminded religious leaders on the 16th anniversary of Nostra Aetate, we are called as religious leaders to help our people to break free from the chains of prejudice, anger, or hatred, to become prophets of our time, voices that denounce violence and injustice, heal division, and proclaim peace for all. May we become architects of bridges rather than barriers, transforming dialogue into action, reconciliation into a way of life, and peace into a lasting legacy for the future generation. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Reverend, for your mention of several important documents, Human Fraternity, Magnificat Humanitas, and for the way you work on the dicastery with certain common strategy to really have joint statement or different. So I will ask my other panelists to be brief because we are out of time. I know that politicians will speak a lot, but I also have that the religious leader, but you have to follow the example of Cardinal, that he was very precise, got to the point. I know that you have your paper, but try to be interactive, no? It's much better, but anyhow. Now I give the floor to Reverend Vladimir Agostinho, Secretary General of the Council of Christian Churches in Angola.
Excellency Dr. Miguel Ángel Moratinos, Excellency Dr. Dionisio, Minister of State and Chief of the Civil House of the President, and all protocol observed. It is an honor to represent this space of dialogue promoted by the UN UN Alliance of Civilization in partnership with the government of Angola, representing the African independent churches affiliated to the Council of Religious Organizations in Angola. I've come to share the experience of Angola, a country that has learned from pain that without dialogue there's no peace, and without peace there's no development. Our recent history teaches us that the major attack to faith and dignity of the Angolan people did not come after independence. It came with the colonial project that promoted slavery, oppression, and economic looting of the Angolan peoples. It was against that many of our churches were born. Even during the period of a single party, some Protestant churches did not shy away of dialogue from the state. On the contrary, they provided frameworks and participated in big campaigns of alphabetization, promotion of women, and protection of war victims. And even with constitutional reforms, this space of cooperation between state and church has become clearer. The dialogue has made bridges, and Angola has understood that faith is not an obstacle to state, but it is a partner in the nation-building process. In the colonial Angola, Protestant missions were schools, hospitals, and consciousness centers. It was there where the desire of liberty and dignity arose. The missions of Keswa, Shisamba, Dondi, Kibokolo, Pungandongo, Kikaya, Shileso, Kakonda, Kamundongo, Mukondo, and others served as that space of instruction and human training. In them, teachers and nurses were educated, and leaders that have served Angola after independence. Even in times of conflict, churches kept their doors open. Pastors and leaders were mediators. They hosted replaced people, they buried dead people and proclaimed independence. They were the ones who many times sustained the social fabric when everything eroded. Academia also can confirm that we live. The study of conflict relations in Africa show that sustainable peace processes demand three pillars: the political one, the economic one, and the social, cultural, and religious one. Interreligious dialogue and interconventional dialogue is not a dictate. It legitimates peace amongst communities. It creates confidence and cures the hatred narratives, and with that dialogue, peace is left only on paper. This need for dialogue is also within our ecumenical journey. In 1517, the church divided. There was no dialogue, there was separation, and from the reform were born many churches which have come up to us. And from this same African seed were born independent churches. The Kipavit movement, the Toquistas, the Kimbangists, the Good God Church, and all others were forces of decolonization. They have taken God to the people in their culture and have told them that the liberty starts in the mind, not in the spirit. Dialogue between Christians came later, as we've heard from our colleague from Penal, with the Council of Vatican II. The Catholic Church opened up itself to the world, and the week of prayer for unity of Christians was born, where we are all, and today this dialogue is possible. I mean, recently Pope Francis visited the World Council of Churches, where the Catholic Church is an observer member. It not just show that the wounds of the past, the quarrels of the past have been left behind. We are together, we are moving towards with our brothers. As Christians worldwide, we recognize the differences, but we prioritize what unites us, the difference through life, human dignity, and peace, regardless of whatever is our position. But we do recognize that the life of people is above our wills. This is the same logic that Angola needs today. Peace building and national reconciliation is not done only amongst politicians, but it requires dialogue with all sensitivities, churches, religious organizations, civil society, and all. I would like to conclude with the second book of Samuel 13 that presents the history of David's family. David and his family, they get into a big conflict because Anan had a passion for his sister, and talking to his brother Jonadab gave him the tricks and invited his sister to her house and raped Tamar. And his father David, the king of Israel, and learned about the situation, did not reproach his son. He kept silent up until when his brother Absalom thought to kill his own brother Anon. After killing his brother, he runs away to Jesu, the land of his grandfather wayside, for many years, and later he felt the need to come back. He asked that David friends could intercede with the king so that he would go back after having killed his own brother. David accepted him to come back but did not want to have contact with his son. That son is left in isolation, and after being left in isolation, he was begging, please talk to my father. I'm in Israel. My father allowed me to come back, but I have no access to my father. I need to see my father. But later on, all attempts were made with David. David didn't want to have dialogue with his own son. The son has put vine on the vineyard of his son and asked, what is it? I want to see my father. And David's friend would talk with David, and David allowed Absalom to go to the palace. David kissed Absalom, but he didn't say any word 7 years after they were separated. Absalom thought that was the moment of reconciliation with his father after 7 years, but his father didn't want to have reconciliation. Absalom left the palace revolted. He said, I don't want reconciliation anymore. I want to avenge. And now I am the opponent of my own father. And then a rivalry is born between father and son. Absalom had a group of supporters, and David got into political clash against his own son. A family war, 120 people died because behind there was no dialogue, there was no confrontation among the family. So we need to remind ourselves that the hate, the lack of dialogue, and the rage can destroy a whole family or a nation, because peace starts with our own so that we can convey it to the others. Thank you very much.
Vladimir Agustinho, thank you for sharing with us the fantastic and positive experience of the different churches and religious leaders during the civil war, how do you reconstruct trust and living together in Angola. And thank you for concluding with this call for dialogue in order to have a real reconciliation. So thank you very much. We are short of time, so I know that the organizers are going to criticize me, but well, we have to give the floor to everybody, but following again her cardinal method. So now I give the floor to Mr. Musi Hailu Gater Sadik, Ambassador, Regional Director of United Religions of African Representative of the African Union and the UN Office in Africa. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, esteemed religious and traditional leaders, brothers and sisters, I extend to you greetings of peace and blessings on behalf of the member of United Religions Initiative in Africa and around the world. URI is a grassroots international interfaith organization which is promoting enduring daily interfaith cooperation to end religiously motivated violence and to promote a culture of peace, justice, and healing. In the interest of time, I would like to be very brief. In an area marked by both remarkable connectivity and raising tension, the influence of religion, faith, and traditional leadership is more important than ever. Religious and faith leaders have always been recognized as influential figures who help shape attitude and guide the moral compass of their communities. Their unique position allows them to act as a mediator, advocates, and educators for peace, understanding, and mutual respect. And I think it's with this in mind, the UN Alliance of Civilization created this space to actively engage religious leaders and traditional leaders to advance a culture of peace and to foster right human relationship through constructive dialogue. Through open dialogue and interfaith collaboration, these leaders can bridge divides, dispel misconception, and address source of tension between different groups. When faith leaders unite to address common challenges, they set a powerful example. Their cooperation demonstrates that despite our differences, peaceful coexistence is not only possible, but essential for the flourishing of all. To harness this potential, it is important that we empower and support faith leaders to serve as a catalyst for dialogue, interfaith cooperation, champions of inclusion, upholders of human dignity, and builders of peace. By doing so, we ensure their voice and the value they represent help create a more harmonious and resilient society. I also wish to highlight the paramount importance of integrating the teaching of the Golden Rule and Ubuntu, the Golden Rule which says treat others the way you want to be treated, and Ubuntu, an African philosophy which says I am because we are, into our educational system and communities dialogue. In a world facing a growing division, hate speech, discrimination, violence, xenophobia, as we see in our continent, and other complex challenges, these enduring principles offer a vital foundation for constructive dialogue, peaceful coexistence, upholding human dignity, and respect international law. And I would like to say, dear brothers and sisters and Your Excellency, it's high time, as people who are living in the 21st century, for us to walk the talk. And one practical action that will help religious leaders, spiritual groups, indigenous groups, to foster peaceful coexistence and for us to move from war to peaceful coexistence, from holding grudge to forgiveness, from unnecessary competition to cooperation, from despair to hope, is again the teaching of the Golden Rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. It's not too much to ask for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to be respected, again, as people who are living in this 21st century. So we have a lot of work to do, but partnership is the way forward. And I think it's with this in mind, the SDG 17 focused partnership. We have a proverb in Africa, as you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go along with others. In this spirit, we need to bring women, children, youth, elderly people, policymakers, all together like the two wings of the bird, one supporting the other for us to fly high and create a better future for this generation and generation yet to come. And I would like once again to thank very much the UN Alliance of Civilization, recognizing the role of religious leaders, traditional leaders, and setting the platform to advance constructive dialogue and also promoting not only relationship, but right human relationship based on dignity and justice for all, including for all life forms on earth, and also to be stewardship of environment. Once again, thank you. May peace, compassion, forgiveness, reconciliation, and healing prevail in our mind, in our heart, in our family, in our community, throughout Africa and the world. May peace prevail on earth.
Thank you very much for being so clear, so right to the point, and to remind us that Africa have your own golden rules, you have all tradition. You should be a reference. Let Africans to show the way how interface is working in the whole world. You can give us lessons and how you have been constructed by your own method or all tradition, all your patrimony. So thank you very much for your very clear word. Africa has to be a reference for all of us. So now I move to another very important speaker from Angola, is the Father Celestino Epalanga, Secretary General for Justice and Peace Commission of Angola Bishop Conference. So you control the bishop, no? I understand, no? More or less.
Saúdo o
I greet you. I greet you all excellencies present here. And I would like to deeply appreciate UNAOC for the invitation addressed to us. Pope Francisco, in his 8th chapter of Fraternitude on fraternity, universal fraternity, and social friendship, he says that between religions, it is possible to have a path towards peace. This is his conviction and belief. I have been conducting this experience. In 2019, I was part of a group of leaders, religious leaders, in the seek of peace in the Great Lakes. They've been in Angola last year, and they have been trying to find different ways for peace in the DRC, as well as the region, the eastern region, and more. And I would like to pay homage to Imam Bukobine, that was the vice chair of this platform, this interreligious platform, Dignity and Peace in the Great Lakes. And to Priest Crasfin Marcial Monga, that was murdered on the 29th of June 2026 in Bangui. He too was a member of this interreligious platform. We own the values of our religions and the values of Ubuntu, as the respect to human life, solidarity, fraternity, respect for the community, acceptance of each other, as well as the value for dialogue. Because peace is a dream of God for humanity. This humanity, which is the work of his hands. Amongst religions, it is possible to find a path for peace, yes, as long as the religious leaders are a positive influence for its brethren, and believe you me, and that they believe in peace, in the Pacific coexistence, and that they are open to dialogue. And they have a criteria which is respect and truth. Dignity of the human being is another value. It's the mission of religious leaders to work towards this education for peace and social coexistence. For over 5 years, I worked at a refugee camp in the Congo, and at this field there were over 100 churches. And it was possible to coexist specifically, obviously working together with the leaders of these different religions, these churches, until the time came where each one went back to their country. And thank God there was never an incident, because the leaders have owned up their responsibilities as peace drivers, using their moral authorities and spiritual authority. They were able to guide and lead these communities that cohabited in the diversity. They learned to celebrate diversity. They learned that diversity is wealth and that it can be at the service of the common good, at the service of peace. This peace that humanity desires or wish for. This peace, like Emmanuel Eminage says, the messianic peace, because it is not a state of future harmony, political life, but an ethical demand. In other words, peace should be and is for all of us a indefinite task. As religious leaders, we keep on believing in peace. We keep on working towards a reconciliation, justice, and peace, because this is the dream of God and the true religion, and the religion of love, the religion of peace, the religion of agreement. Thank you very much.
Celestine Palanga, for your practical experience. You have the platform, the work on the refugee camp, and how you could help to understand the dynamics of political and social cohesion in this very difficult situation. So now we have the last two speakers coming from Nigeria. They've been working together. So I think we have Imam Muhammad Nura Asafa, co-director Interfaith Medicine Center, that received the inaugural Commonwealth Peace Prize, and Reverend Dr. Jamil Movel, co-director Interfaith Medicine Center. Both of you have received this award. You share the time. You have, both of you, 5 minutes. So you distribute among both of you your time.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It is well appreciated. Standing on existing protocol. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. Fellow brothers and sisters, today is a very important day and a milestone in our journey. To look at the world, the stages of faith leaders. How can they add value to dignity of the human family? My beloved brothers and sisters, when we talk of social cohesion, we have been working in this field in the last 3 decades, myself and my twin brother. The cardinal will say incompatible twins. So we are. And the most important thing is that when we talk of social cohesion, from a very Islamic perspective, from a very strong Muslim perspective, it is an attitude, a culture that every Muslim must embrace. You cannot be a Muslim if you don't embrace the spirit of social cohesion. And that's why Quran chapter 49, verse 13 has made that very clear. Ya ayyuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wal unsa wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu. This verse is often repeated, and we saw it as one of the messages, golden message in the template of the United Nations. That shows that the issue of social cohesion doesn't start with us. And secondly, at the time of the prophet, practically, because I'm a practitioner, We are practically engaged in putting this into practice. And that's why during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad in Medina, we saw how the Nigerian Christian pay him a visit, how he respect and honor these Nigerian Christians. Then the same applies when Christians went to Ethiopia, in Abyssinia. They were highly honored and respected. You see in social cohesion in action. And up to today, the Muslims who went on migration to Abyssinia is a model for any Muslim to say, you can't leave out your neighbors who are from other faiths. That is one. The second important thing is I feel I want to make reference to, because we are sharing our time, is the issue of the challenges we face. There's a lot of mantra, model for engagement. That apart from prophetic day, from the day of Father Francis Assisi to the Sultan of Egypt, where they have a dialogue of life 800 years ago. The world is at a difficult moment as we are today, but even with the difficulty, with the crusade and whatever, the elders, the religious, the faith leaders were still able to have a dialogue. And that is a model for all of us to see. And it didn't stop from there, coming to the present ages, and then to today, most of which I mentioned reference to mantra and documentations that are valuable for us in the purpose of promoting the culture of peace. Distinguished brothers and sisters, the mantra of peace, of social cohesion, beginning with the golden rule, which I mentioned earlier, the Ubuntu, which is indebted in African tradition, to the concept of human fraternity, which I've been making reference to. We all have various instruments that can help us to work with as a tool for mechanism. But the challenge we have are the challenge of practical engagement with these tools. And that's where the difficulty is. However, in our struggle and our effort, we're able to work with this document. We identify role models who have successfully, from the continent of Africa, be able to touch lives and make things different. Example of these role models, we can talk of Mahatma Gandhi, who is from Africa here back to India and make a world a change place. We can talk about Martin Luther King, Abdul Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, role they play in making and creating a change in America, motivated by their faith. Motivated by what? Martin Luther is motivated by his faith to action. The same applies to Abdul Malik Shabazz. And we can talk of other leaders who have done similar things. I don't need to mention names. But we can look back and look at us as one of the pilots in our own local initiative across over 70 countries of the world as a model of working, promoting the culture of peaceful coexistence. The challenge we have, of course, there are three important key challenges. One, politicization of religion and religionization of our political process. These have been one of the key important challenges. The second one is extremism and radicalization that has spread into our religious space, and we need to address that. And we are doing something on that. Then, of course, Islamophobia on one side, and then identity theft, stealing our identity of religion, committing atrocity in the name of God of love, maiming and killing in the name of God of forgiveness, God of compassion. These have been the challenges we have. Then, creating negative counter-narratives, narratives that are negative solidarity, that are promoting, justifying hatred of the other. These are some of the important challenges we have, but we have worked on these challenges. In Nigeria, from the Interfaith Mediation Center, we produce counter-narrative documents that counter those negative narratives religious leaders in the middle class and the bad and the ugly religious leaders produce and insert into our religious space. My fellow brothers and sisters, one of the important things we do was challenge the AI issue you make reference to. Before I hand over to Pastor Jim, right now we are producing a working document, peace educational tools on AI. We know the AI is innocent in terms of morality, in terms of spirituality. It is blind. So we decided to insert the concept of morality and spirituality, to which they are based on some principles. These are 5 absolute principles. 1, absolute honesty, absolute purity, absolute unselfishness, absolute love, and unconditional forgiveness. If you can share these 5 principles, we can make a world a better place. Let me hand over to Pastor James Mugawe.
Thank you very much, Imam Ashafa. I am observing all the protocols. Given the time constraint, I will go straight to my recommendation. Distinguished panelists and all protocol observed, today I stand on 3 pillars. One, as a former militia who has repented and become a peacemaker for the past 30 years, using what I call divine intimidation strategy to invoke compliance. Africa is truly a religious nation, and you can market anything using religion. That strength in our spirituality is what we take now to change violent people to become peacemakers. Ladies and gentlemen, here I carry an artificial limb. I lost this hand during the fight between my people and Ashafa's people. They chopped up my hand in one of the fights in 1992. And of course, our boys also killed Imam's spiritual leader. So it therefore means there is hope. Former enemies can be best friends. Our faith teaches us to forgive. And without forgiveness, there is nowhere you can see your God. Lastly, I want to say this opportunity given to us that we are custodians of the moral credibility. I want to challenge the House with these pragmatic steps to say, today, the world does not simply need more negotiation, it needs more moral leaders. We are having moral bankruptcy. It needs religious leaders who refuse to bless violence. The world, our community need those who choose hope over hatred. It needs courageous people willing to cross the line that history has drawn. As an inaugural recipient of the Commonwealth Peace Prize, and recently an elected member of the URI Advisory Board, as a personal achievement, I don't see this as personal achievement, but it reminds us that peace is possible when former enemies choose reconciliation over revenge. As members of the URI Global Advisory Council, my appeal is simple. Let us replace language of war with language of dialogue. Let us replace fear with trust. Let us replace violence with forgiveness. Let us replace division with our shared humanity. For peace is not merely the dream of the United Nations. Peace is truly the will of God. May we become faithful instruments of that peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I recommend to you because of time, that you can check up the solution, the pragmatic solution, what we call boot on the ground. When you Google African answer, African response to conflict, both political and ethno-religious. I also recommend to you the journey of forgiveness, the Imam and the Pastor, from vengeance to forgiveness. And lastly, I recommend to you this book, The Imam and the Pastor, A Journey of Healing and Reconciliation. This is the conclusion of my speech. Blessed are those who keep to time, for they shall be invited again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are out of time totally. I don't know, Karina, you want to say a final word? Okay, so let me just conclude very quickly. I think everybody agreed that spirituality is back. Society needs spiritual and ethic guidance. Number two, religion is a positive element in order to create these peaceful and cohesive societies. Number third, we have a lot of documents that are showing that interfaith dialogue is working well. human fraternity, fratelli tutti, manifest humanitas, the many documents that there is methodology in order to have a common agenda, common statement, common attitude, and we have Africa. You have your own experience. Please, coming from an outsider of Africa, I really urge you to work on as you are working and to be the reference for this interfaith, interreligious, dialogue. So thank you very much. Join me to applaud the panelists for very interesting work.
Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, concluímos.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the first session, thematic session. Would like to thank all the speakers for the contributions, reflections. Photographers, please seize this moment, take a photograph of the panelists. As I was saying, I would like to thank the different speakers for the contribution and reflections that have been shared on the role of religious leaders and faith in the promotion of dialogue and peaceful coexistence. We'll now move on to the second thematic session of this morning, the youth as partners in preventions, building a peace cultures for future generation. To moderate this panel, to moderate this session, we have the pleasure of inviting Dana Podmolikova, is an expert in program management, youth at the Alliance of Civilizations at the UN. I will now call upon the speakers, Mr. Gift Chansa from SECAS Zambia, renowned alumna and winner of Intercultural Innovation Hub. Mrs. Tabisang Anna Mujaje from Leaders Foundation that Seek to Dream. Aluna is a beneficiary of the Solidarity Fund, Youth Solidarity Fund. I would also like to call Ms. Wevi Muganda, founder of Isirika. She's a UNESCO alumni. Ms. Rosaina Alberto, she's a judo athlete from 2025, Angola. Mr. Cesar Christopher Gama from the Youth Organization in Switzerland. Una Coluna is a beneficiary of Solidarity Fund, Youth Solidarity Fund. Dr. Osvaldo Izata, political scientist and researcher, expert in geopolitics, international relations, and external politics. Mrs. Laontine Desert, from Young Mind, Africa Trust, UNAOC alumni and beneficiary of Intercultural Innovation Hub. Ms. Elisandra Jeanette Gurgel Wasuka, politician, social leader, professional athlete, and MP to the National Assembly of Angola. The panel is now concluded. Dana, you can conduct the session. Please remember, it's 5 minutes per speaker.
I'm aware we will dive right into this. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the second roundtable entitled Youth as Partners in Prevention, Building a Culture of Peace for Future Generations. My name is Dana Podmolikova, and I'm the Program Management Specialist covering the youth portfolio at UNAOC, and I have this distinct honor to be the moderator of this session. Today, we will look at how young people are taking the lead in peace building, particularly across Africa. But before we dive into this fascinating discussion with our distinguished panel, I would like to invite on stage His Excellency Mr. Miguel Ángel Moratinos, Undersecretary General and High Representative for the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations and the UN Special Envoy to Combat Islamophobia, to kick us off by introducing a new campaign aimed at challenging us to think differently. Mr. Moratinos, the floor is yours.
I'm use my capacity of being one part of organizer to take the floor again. But I want to take the floor at the beginning of this very important panel about youth, because as I refer to all of you, I'm extremely concerned about this technological advancement. And one of the issues that struck me more, if we want to create a better society, a society for the future, we have, of course, to give the floor and the responsibility also to the young people, to the youth. But how are educated the youth? Why the youth can be educated for peace and not for war? So, since last 2 years, I was thinking that something had to be done. And when I saw a lot of young people in front of the screen playing video games, war games, and my friend, war is not a game. So how we are not able to ban, to prohibit that people sit in front of the screen and young people sit there just to kill, and they are very happy. They are enjoying. So I decided to take the responsibility to send here from Luanda, from this peace summit in Luanda, in Angola, the ban of video war games. So we are going to show you a small video in order to say that all of us have to commit to stop that children sit in front of the screen to kill, even if it's a virtual kill. And I think that will be a tremendous contribution for the whole summit here in Luanda, in Angola. Thank you very much.
War can look exciting when it's just a game. Digital games are built around winning. Every mission has another chance. Every defeat can become another victory. Every life can respawn. But war is never defined by victory. War is always defined by loss and tragedy. When violence is framed as play, it's easier to ignore the human cost of war. Lives lost, homes destroyed, families separated, children whose lives are changed forever. In the real world, there are no winners in war. There are no second chances, no respawns, no clean endings. The screen may fade to black, but real life doesn't. Violence is not entertainment. War is not a game. What we play shapes the world we live in. So let's choose differently. Let's choose stories that build rather than destroy. Let's play games that connect us rather than divide us. Choose peace, even in the video games we play and the virtual worlds we create. Let's play for peace, not war.
Thank you again, Mr. Moratinos, for introducing the Play for Peace Now, Not War campaign. Young people are certainly the demographic spending countless hours playing video games. And with the technological advancements, these games are becoming more graphic and more real-like. So indeed, it is time to flip the narrative and focus on peace. And this is why we are here today, to talk about peace, particularly from the youth lens. I'm joined here by a very special guests, all young leaders from different parts of Africa, all working really hard in their respective fields and in their respective communities to build peace. Despite the progress and the advancement that the world has made over the past few decades, lately the world has shifted the gear into reverse. Instead of approaching the finish line on achieving sustainable development goals, the world faces a vast number of existential risks and challenges, from conflicts, violations of human rights, to many incidents of discrimination based on religion or belief, to name just a few. Precisely because the challenges are so many and so complex, we need everybody on board. The whole of a society approach is essential to shift the gears again and accelerate progress towards positive and sustainable peace and development. Young people in particular are the key players in peace building, and they need to be front and center of these actions. As many of you are aware, their vital role has been recognized and reinforced through multiple UN security resolutions on youth, peace and security, as well as other documents, UN documents and policy frameworks, including the new Agenda for Peace or the Pact for the Future. UNAOC has a long history of recognizing and highlighting the vital role of young people and the immense contribution to building peaceful societies. Since the very beginning, UNAOC made youth as one of the central pillars of the work, implementing a number of programs and initiatives that are youth-focused and are working alongside young people and young leaders to make the world more inclusive and peaceful. I'm delighted to be joined by some of these young leaders that have come through the UNAOC programs and initiatives, as well as other accomplished young leaders to reflect on and discuss how we can collectively build the culture of peace, not just for the future generations, but for now, for us. So without further ado, let us dive into this fascinating topic and explore the different dimensions of youth peace building. So at first, let's look at youth leadership. Young people have proven time and time again that they are capable and willing to step up and take charge of activities and projects and advocacy efforts to contribute to positive change and peace. I'm going to turn to you, Gift, first. You co-founded Circus Zambia. It's an organization that received support from the Intercultural Innovation Hub last year to scale up your operations across Zambia to provide young people from disadvantaged communities with safe and creative spaces and equip them with theater and circus skills, as well as leadership skills, so they can grow and thrive. Given your experience, how can intercultural leadership among young people be strengthened to advance peace, inclusion, and social cohesion?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. I feel to answer the question, I'm going to share a little bit about our work, because I feel it answers a little bit on social cohesion, peace, inclusion. So I grew up in a township in Lusaka, Zambia, that is known for drugs, criminality. This township in particular, if you're in Lusaka, Zambia, a lot of people are scared of it. So 15 years ago, if you said, if you were looking for work and you said, I'm from this township, they wouldn't even give you work or trust you with anything. So we thought we should start a circus. And some people would ask, why a circus? We thought we should create a platform where young people could express themselves, a platform where we can engage with stakeholders, a platform where we can build shared experiences within the community. So at Seka Zambia, we have three pillars that we use. They call it the body, mind, and soul. So in the body, this is just a roadmap for young people. Like you've said, we've created safe spaces or physical spaces where young people can come and spend their time. In this community that I'm talking about, we don't have play parks, we don't have places where young people could just go and be young people. So young people come and they train seekers, and through seekers they learn to trust each other. It helps them build their self-esteem and discipline, because seekers also requires for you to be disciplined. When you're training, you're juggling, or when you're working with your friends, you need to be able to communicate, because if you don't, it's also, it could be a bit dangerous. But we have put precautions in place. And then in the soul, because our community is these negative stereotypes, we've created a platform for dialogue. So it's not just seekers activities and young people performing or using storytelling or theater, but it's also a dialogue, like sitting like this. So we've been able to work with, for instance, we've been working with the Home Affairs, especially with the police department within Chibodia, to create understanding between the police and young people, how the police enforcement can engage with juveniles, for instance, and how they're treated. Also to just enlighten a little bit more on human rights and etc., etc. And in the mind, what we've done is, when we see young people that have potential, we support them with education, we give them employability skills and entrepreneurship, and we connect them, creating pathways to organizations, to other people that give life skills. It could be carpentry, it could be how to become a mechanic or a builder in that sense. So these are the three pillars that we kind of used at Seka Zambia to engage with the community. But also I must acknowledge our forefathers, especially in Zambia, because we have over 73, even I think 75 languages, and in Chibodia in particular we have families that have come with Luandanese background, from Burundi and from Congo. But I think following these principles of, I think the first president, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, introduced the philosophy or the motto of One Zambia, One Nation. And so through, they made the Zambia National Service, where they would get a young person. This is a long time ago, in 60s. If you are below 18, they would send you to go work. If you're from the south, they would send you to go work in the north. And if you are from the north, they would send you to work in the south. And I feel like we've also carried these principles in that aspect. I think the previous also quote that was sitting, they were talking about, the Ubuntu philosophy of I am because we are. These are some of the principles that we've been also using in promoting peace within our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gift. You make it sound like it's so easy, but but no matter how much we try to empower young people, it's not without its own challenges. So the international community, including the United Nations, have been working for years to improve young people's participation in decision-making processes. Over the years, it became less about access now, it's more about the quality of engagement. There are a lot more spaces for young people to participate in various national, regional, and even global intergovernmental processes, but meaningful youth participation is still rather an aspiration than reality. So as many young people are still saying that the participation in these spaces, in these forums, remains tokenistic. So, Entabi, your journey with UNAOC began with the Youth Solidarity Fund in 2021, when the organization that you co-founded, the Leaders Who Dare to Dream Foundation, developed a series of toolkits as part of your flagship Breaking Down Borders Africa initiative, for which I understand you support young African leaders to collectively or collaborate towards social and transferable skills development in their communities through different summits and dialogues and forums. So based on your experience, what are the main barriers preventing meaningful youth engagement in decision-making processes related to peace and security? What needs to be done or changed for their voices to be taken seriously?
Thanks, Dana. Is it on? Oh, yeah. One of the things that we also do at Breaking Down Borders is we also do documentaries, films, and we also create a lot of work around narrative, right? So there's a problem with perception when it comes to like youth that work in the peace space, where it's, or it's youth in general. So it's either youth are seen as the victims that need to be protected, or youth are seen as potential perpetrators. So kind of boxed in and not seen as a group that is already active in intervention, that's already organizing, that's already active. So it's not like, yeah, so I feel like sometimes youth are viewed as being passive and not actually like active actors already in our communities, already doing the work that we do, already being proactive. And I think another barrier, which is what we found in South Africa as well, is safety, right? So personal safety as activists, not having protection. So recently we've had xenophobic uprisings in South Africa, where youth in the communities wanted to intervene at the risk of their own safety, in communities where there already is lack of police visibility. So there's also the challenge of the protection, right? So that is another barrier that exists. Resources and capacity. I know we always talk about this and in a room full of other activists, I'm sure everybody gets it. But the fact that we're young and have energy and passion and the commitment to social justice, it doesn't give us the resources that we always need, and as well as the capacity, because sometimes you're in a room in a peacekeeping room, and the language that's being used is so specialized that it feels a bit hard to engage, because you don't even understand. A lot of people don't understand the conversation. The language is, like I said, it's a specialized kind of diplomatic language that young people can't always relate with. So I feel like as much as you mentioned that more young people are being invited in the room, I think the engagement can be more meaningful if also we're setting the agenda. We're also, coming and talking about our interventions and how we engage and how we communicate in our youthful ways. So I feel like those are kind of like the key barriers that I would really like to mention.
Thank you. Speaking of creating spaces for more meaningful participation of youth, in October 2026, the beautiful city of Luanda will be also hosting the 4th Biennale of Luanda, this Pan-African Forum for a Culture of Peace and Nonviolence, jointly organized by UNESCO, the African Union, and the government of Angola. The forum recognizes the importance of fostering exchanges between generations to strengthen mutual understanding, preserve shared values, and promote collaborative approaches to peace building and prevention of violence. UNAOC and UNESCO work closely together in this context, and we are trying to build synergies and not work in silos. Therefore, I am pleased to welcome here also a young leader from the UNESCO network to share her views and perspectives with us. So I'm turning to you, Robin. You have a ton of experience with youth-led projects and youth-led peace building on local, regional, and global levels. You implemented your own projects, but you're also working with other like-minded young leaders. So what are some of the current success stories of youth engaging in peace building and violence prevention around the world? How can we adapt these lessons from these examples to fit other contexts, if you can share?
Thank you very much, and thank you, distinguished guests. To understand what makes youth peace building initiatives successful, I think we must first deconstruct peace from this abstract concept. And for me, before I share some examples, is to understand that peace runs on a trust currency. And so when that price is not paid, there is violence. And when that price is paid, peace is inevitable. So we have to ask ourselves, who do young people trust? And how do we build trust with young people? And how do we build trust amongst young people and amongst communities? Through the UNESCO Youth for Peace program, myself and 50 other leaders received support and training to implement intercultural leadership projects. For example, in Egypt, Ahmed is implementing a healing trust, which strengthens communication between patients and healthcare workers, because access to healthcare is also a peace-building project. In Singapore, Sharon is implementing the youth circles, which uses photography, storytelling to explore identity, belonging, and diversity. And it's exciting today at the launch of the ban of video games that I came with my own game here, which I was supported by UNESCO to develop. It's called Ballot Battle, the Campaign Trail. Because if we are going to play games and teach people, and young people are getting taught to be violent, then we can teach them to be leaders. Ballot Battle is a card game that is a simulation of the real-world political situation. Young people play as citizens, and 3 people play as candidates. So you'll see at the front here. And we deliberately used a woman in the middle to also demonstrate women's leadership. And we also have a young person with a hearing aid, because we want young people with disability to also feel like they're part of the political world. And the whole idea is that young people debate, they have to navigate scandals, they have to explain their policies in 1 minute and have to convince the citizens, and eventually they vote on who becomes the president. To get back to my point, when we talk about engagement, it's about building trust. So when we look at peer networks, relationships, young people already trust their friends. They trust the people they go to school with. They trust their coaches in football teams. They trust their teachers in schools. And when we talk about building trust with young people, we have to understand that human rights is a fundamental aspect of building peace. And so when we are guaranteed human rights, and we know that we are guaranteed to live a certain kind of lifestyle, and we don't get to live that life, then we question and we don't trust the system that are meant to provide this. And even in communities where we have migrants, we have refugees, we have young people from different tribes and different communities, where there isn't a shared sense of identity, of belonging, of connection, then there's likely for violence to emerge. I think we can take from these examples a few lessons. One, we must recognize and learn from and invest in trusted local youth networks. We have to build the infrastructure for peace, not just through program delivery, but understanding that peace is an everyday experience. So how do we create everyday moments that lead to peace? And finally, we have to protect and uphold the fundamental rights of every young person: the right to live, the right to learn, the right to earn, the right to choose. Today, young people need choices. Otherwise, they become vulnerable to the choices that are available to them. In the context of violent young people who've been radicalized into gangs and violent groups, we see that most of them are left with no choice but to join these groups. But when we provide young people with choices, we build their esteem, we build their capacity to decide, to be leaders, and to choose a life that honors their talents, that brings them joy and creativity, and to choose a life of their own. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we've heard multiple examples from how young people are doing their own peace-building initiatives around the world. So there are many ways we can build peace, but one of the rather underused tools for peace is sport. Despite the widespread belief and recognition that sport is a universal language that can bring communities together, one could argue we don't use it enough. And so I'm delighted to have Rosiana with us. Rosiana, you are an accomplished athlete, the current African judo champion in your weight category, which I understand you hold for the second consecutive year, as well as a holder of multiple other titles. So sport is clearly an integral part of your life. So I would like to know from you, what role can sport and athletes play in preventing violence, reducing exclusion, and combating negative influences among young people? What barriers do young people face in accessing sport? And what does it mean for their participation in civic life and decision making?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rosalina. I'm 18 years old. I'm athlete of judoka and I'm Angolan. It's a great pleasure and honor to be part in this activity of alliances and civilizations of the UN. I will share about my experience. In the beginning of my career, I faced situations, but as the time passed, I realized that I had an objective. My objective was to be a champion, despite challenges during my way. Sport nowadays, sport gave me opportunity and a voice. I hope that all young people would have the same experience, and those who face the same experience nowadays, sport gave me opportunity and a voice. I hope that all young people would have the same experience of being a champion. One of the things that I like in sport is the capacity of unite people from different backgrounds and a social status under a common objective. As for instance, when I travel to international championships, I feel, even if it is far away from my country and my country, I feel welcomed and familiarized by the environment of judo. A sport gives young a purpose, discipline, and positive examples to follow. When we have opportunities to train and to be part of a team, we take our time in doing a lot of activities and develop trust as well. Particularly, sports presents a moral code, discipline, education with each other.
While we have here a living proof that sport can or is a great way to positively transform lives of young people, we have other tools in our toolbox to advance peace. As the world becomes more interconnected and diverse, it instantly exposes people to different cultures. This brings the opportunity for intercultural exchange, intercultural learning, and intercultural dialogue. Chris, I'm going to turn to you now. You got to engage with UNAOC through the Youth Solidarity Fund back in 2019. Your organization back then, the Swaziland Intent Youth Organization, was supported through YSF to implement a project called Dismantling Religious and Cultural Stereotypes for Social Cohesion and Sustainable Peace. So in your opinion, what role can intercultural and interfaith dialogue play in empowering youth to promote social cohesion and resilience?
Thank you, Dana, for the question. I stand on all protocol. Look, generally, when most people speak about preventing violence, they speak after the violence has occurred or when it is unfolding. When in actual fact, prevention of violence begins much earlier. You know, it begins with building relationships. Through my experience, or through my work, especially with young people, I've come to learn that prejudices survive because people have never had the opportunity to have a genuine conversation with a person who is different from them. And intercultural and interfaith dialogue, Dana, creates the opportunity, you know, for people to build relationships. It creates the opportunity for young people to get a chance to know each other before circumstances force them, you know, to defend their identities against one another. So dialogue builds relationships, and it's the relationships that build peace. That's my view. And I think I was reminded of this point yesterday during our tour at the military, museum here in Luanda yesterday, where we were reminded of how General Nunda and General Kamaterio led the military talks that contributed, to the end of the civil war and, establishment of peace here in Angola. So these two, or what struck me the most was that these two generals knew each other. They had a relationship. And I think the Angolans here in the room are much more aware of the relationship they had. I think at one point they fought side by side. They were comrades. So I think this point about building relationships is important to me because to share a personal experience, in 2021, when the unrest, erupted in Eswatini, I had the urge, I wanted to do something, but, at some point I ended up reaching out to a senior leader and said to him, look, I feel like the language being used, the rhetoric from across divides, and especially from the government, is not helping to calm the situation. If anything, it is inflaming the situation. So I asked him, I said, you are a respected leader and you work closely with these people. Can you try to speak to them and try to use language that is calming? So, and I think he did that. So what made that call possible was not because we were agreeing on what was happening in the country per se. As a matter of fact, we were on opposing side of the national conversation. But what made it possible for him to take my call and listen to me and even try to convey the message to the powers that be was that me and him had developed a relationship of trust over years, built on discussions about religion, and a whole lot of other issues. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think the point is that relationships are the infrastructure that communities need, in times of crisis. And interfaith and intercultural dialogue provides the opportunity for that to happen. Interfaith and intercultural dialogue does two things. One, it builds empathy, and empathy strengthens social cohesion. Young people who engage with people of different identities begin to understand, young people beyond those identities. Once that is done, young people are able to build friendships, they are able to build relationships, networks, across, different religious and cultural backgrounds. And it is those, relationships that become the together during difficult times and even help to prevent disagreements from imploding into violence. And the second thing that interfaith dialogue or intercultural or interfaith and intercultural dialogue does is if it's meaningful, it helps young people to develop not only empathy, but also critical thinking. It helps young people to have factual knowledge. It helps young people to have, proper understanding of other people. And in today's digital world, where polarizing narratives are awash, young people who have engaged in meaningful intercultural and interfaith dialogue develop the resilience against hate speech. They develop the confidence to reject narratives that are polarizing. They develop, the empathy to side with people who might be, being, they develop the confidence to side with people whose identities are exploited by others to sort of threaten peace in society. So in parting, Dana, I think to build peace for future generations, we need to continue to invest in dialogue, because dialogue is, in my view, the currency that builds the infrastructure, which is relationships, that can help us in difficult times to ensure that differences which are natural in human lives do not implode into violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I definitely agree with you. It's dialogue is absolutely vital for us to progress. I also like how you also built on the previous speakers and talking about trust and trust building and how that is important for dialogue and building positive and peaceful relationships between cultures and communities. Now, peace building, while it's immensely rewarding, it is hard. The challenges are many and they are multifaceted, and more so in crisis-affected countries. So I'm going to turn to Dr. Isata now, and thank you for joining us. You, as a peace and security studies specialist and geopolitical analyst, you have a unique insight and understanding of particularly challenging contexts. So could you perhaps share your thoughts on how can youth-led intercultural dialogue in fragile and conflict-affected contexts contribute to social resilience and sustainable peace?
Yes, thank you. You better get a translation because I'm going to speak in Portuguese. Thank you so much. Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Excellencies. It's a great opportunity to be here to address matters on resolution of conflicts, on the same way, management of conflicts, two different and important barometers. First of all, before answering you, I'd like to give you a thought if we start from the point of the study of civilizations, 5,000 years before, humanity had 4,000 years of war, roughly 400 years of conflicts, internal and international conflicts. If we start on the point of view of studies of civilizations, this in conflict solving, this has to have our reflection. Humanity in 5,000 years had 290 years without conflicts. We have to deep reflect in terms of resolution and management of conflicts that are two different things. As for intercultural dialogue is key for us as young and we as human. I always think a Mozambican philosopher who is also a professor who has written a very important book, From Independence to Liberties. This is the book. In practical terms, he says that elders fought for independence for the African continent nowadays. It is obligation of the current generation, so young people, to fight for social liberty and cross the line of development for African people. When we stop to reflect on the contribution of intercultural, I bring an important aspect, even if my colleague said about trust, but for me, trust, institutional trust, to trust institutions as promoter of trust. So leaders, they are the pillars of this institutional trust. We have to construct this platform. After that, I have a principle, is a criticism to the UN on conflict solving. We have peace building and peacemakers. Peacemakers and peace builders, which is different. What is the moral of the international law so that the two concepts would be united for a single project, that is peace? Intercultural dialogue, number one, has to have communication. For those who live in Africa and Central Africa, they will have the obligation to play a role in learning language, English or French, this generally or continentally speaking, but nationally speaking, a contact that could allow us, before a political difference in Africa, we are human. This is an interesting philosophy, and to have the idea that resolution of a national or international problem has to have the contribution of everyone, connectivity, and we would also take the advantage of the impact of the new technologies, social media, so that it would be a space of dialogue. Nowadays, dialogue can be presential this is the example that we have now, and it can be a digital dialogue. That's why I brought the question of language. English and French are languages that will make it easy. This interconnectivity make a world a smaller space. And the concepts that we discuss in peace building and peacemaking will be key for us. We can use this space. Another important moment has to do with the idea of state, which is fundamental. If in the case of the African continent, we start the idea of state from 1968, because this is a milestone for the participation of young people. We are talking about the Europe or West, the war of 30 years, which involved the church and other authorities. The idea of state that we have in Africa is almost idea, because we advanced after colonization moment to build institutions that have to be reinforced in the point of view of the power, communication, and a fundamental element, inclusion of young people. The peace project has to do an important barometer, peace and security, two important conditions. This state, as the greater institution, has to be the guarantor of security, which is important. And people that are part of the state have to be the elements for the building of peace. Inclusion is important since we understand that the project of peace has no name, peace has no age, because contribution of a young people is as well as the same as an elder. Leonardo Boff, a Brazilian philosopher, talk about the paradigm of care. It is responsibility of all to take care of what we call peace, because peace is a project and that project deserves the contribution of all. Another element that I believe is key is informal dialogue. Because when we look, for example, to the question of peace, we observe a fundamental issue. Normally, debates of peace and security have been developed by the UN. This is true. There are experts. In the case of Democratic Republic of Congo, they go there, they establish goals on how they will work to reach peace in a DRC. But there is an interesting work of a French-American professor, Séverine Joseph. She talk about think and act locally. This is a criticism that the UN received in the best way. The involvement of the people who are directly in the conflict. Let me give you a practical example. In 1978, we have Camp David, Egypt and Israel. They signed peace. They had diplomatic accomplishment, but after weeks, conflict came. Amel Sadat, the president, unfortunately was assassinated, and other actors involved, they had a lot of problems. We have to include, in an obliged way, in a cultural way, people who suffer directly the conflicts on the ground, because the role of UN has been important, socialization of the idea of peace, security, social inclusion, but not including people who faced day to day, they will have challenges. We have to think and act locally. The last fundamental point has to do with the various organizations that are created in the world, that in the way they have backing and funding from the UA, but I think they would have a different approach and help from the states. Because when we stop and talk about of the international law, which is important, when we talk about, Grosso said that men need to live in a peace society. It's not a single society, but equality and the idea of a spirituality that leave us to be as human beings. We have to look at man when we talk about peace. Man is the main guarantee of peace, and peace has no geography. In other words, if I'm in Africa or in America or Europe, the idea of peace is a universal idea, and the inclusion of everyone is important. I'll stop there. And the example of Angola in this project is very important. See that you have to think and act locally. Angola had a lot of attempts for peace, but in the day that we sat down as Angolan, we removed our political colors, MPLA, UNITA, FNLA, and we looked as Angola as a single state. We managed to reach peace. Inclusion is key, and intercultural dimension has to have a human philosophy. Understand that that one who doesn't belong to my party, who doesn't belong to my country, can be a fundamental key to peace. Peace building and peace making will be key for barometer, peace and security. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pick on that one point that you mentioned, that peace is a concern of everybody. It is evident that we can only succeed in building more peaceful and sustainable future through collective and collaborative action. And you mentioned a couple of examples yourself. So the collective effort and ongoing commitment of all stakeholders may just be the key to success. Laoni, I'm coming to you now. Last year, your project, Model Parliament Africa, organized by Young Minds Africa, which is an organization that you co-founded, the project was expanded thanks to the support of the Intercultural Innovation Hub, which is a global initiative of UNAOC and the BMW Group and supported by Accenture, which in itself is a prime example of public-private partnerships. So let me ask you, how can partnerships between youth organizations, governments, the UN, civil society, or even private sector can be enhanced to support sustainable peace and sustainable peace initiatives and prevent the radicalizations of young people, which can contribute to increased rates of violence?
Thank you so much for the question, Donna. I'd say that when we talk about preventing radicalization and building sustainable peace, we need to first start by changing one assumption. Young people are not just beneficiaries of peace building. They are actually the true architects of peace building. We at Young Minds are guided by the simple yet powerful words that for the youth, by the youth. So many a times you find that partnerships between government, civil society, the United Nations, and youth organizations, you find that these solutions are created for youth, but without the youth being part of that conversation. So at Young Minds, we ensure that young people actually become part of the conversation. Through our Model Parliament Africa program that was supported by the UNOC, we actually empower young girls to be part of the decision-making table. Through this program, we have been able to achieve a level where government, civil society, and young people and youth organizations actually allow young people to be in the decision-making table. For example, one of the key milestones that we have achieved in Zambia is that we managed to contribute to the enactment of inputting quotas. Now, there's 15 seats reserved for young people in parliament. That is one of the milestones that our program has actually achieved. This truly shows that if we work together, if the government, if the young people, if the youth organizations and the UN work together, we can actually be able to ensure that young people are not left out of the conversation. We can actually ensure that there is ownership in terms of development. There's ownership in terms of peace building. If young people are not part of the conversation, if they don't have ownership towards that, if they are unhappy, then that is when we will continue to see violence. That's when we will see their unhappiness presented in strikes. We'll see their unhappiness presented in other different social ills. So through these partnerships, it is the only way that we can ensure that we curb some of these violences that may arise due to the exclusion of young people within the conversation. When you look at the population makeup of Africa, it's an upside pyramid. The young people form the largest part of the African population. And if the young people are not part of the design for solutions towards peace and peace building, of course, we are going to be unhappy. And of course, we are going to show that irritation in multiple ways. Could be violence, could be vandalism, could be distress that contributes to other social ills and other social and developmental challenges. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leonie. And congratulations for achieving the milestone of securing 15 spots for young people in the parliament. I think that's fantastic. So it is clear that young people are doing a fantastic job already and that they are more than capable and willing to take matters into their hands and lead the way. However, as we discussed earlier, no one can do and succeed alone. So support from institutions and wisdom of the older generation as well can help and enhance young people's peace-building efforts. And so I'm also glad to welcome Dr. Vasuka here. You wear many hats. As far as I am told, you are a prominent Angolan politician, a competitive athlete, and a communication strategist. This is very impressive, and balancing careers in public service, business, and martial arts. So given your diverse background, I'd like to ask you, what institutional and sociocultural changes may be needed to enhance intergenerational collaboration, providing youth inclusive and youth transformative peace-building efforts?
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, youth, good morning. It is quite significant for me to be in this summit and panel, not only for being in Angola, the land of forgiveness and reconciliation, my land, but because I'm a war orphan and I've grown up without parents. It is hard for a woman to grow up without a dad or a father figure, and appealing to peace is quite significant to me. So, talking about institutional and sociocultural changes, including the youth, we need to recognize first that youth can no longer be invited in the process of peace building. We cannot participate as guests. We need to be as co-creators and leaders of this process. But to talk about peace without being romantic, we need to talk about war. In order to talk about peace, we need to talk about war. So I'll bring 3 notes before answering your questions. First is to the youth, government, and the United Nations. The first note I'd like to leave is that the youth needs to understand in its complexity that war nowadays is a huge business, not only for the investment made by the public industry, and whoever invests seeks profit. But unfortunately, there are nations that in order to maintain their power and economic stability need other nations to be unstable. That already asks us young people not to be instrumentalized, because normally the ones that conduct or promote wars are the elders, but it's the young people that go to war. The second note, and this is for the government and the United Nations, is that if we invest so much in the weapon, if we invest in the youth just like we invest in the weapons, obviously the war promoters would not realize their war, because a young person with dreams will not deliberately go to war, because young people want to build families, they want to travel, they want to be successful, so they are not willingly going to war. And thirdly, is that we need to understand that ociousity is like thematic and atomic war. The youth cannot sit without doing anything. The youth need to go to school, need to work, need to do sports. Can you now hear me? Am I audible? Like I was saying,
So, sim. Este, mais, está melhor.
thank you.
Estar na ociosidade. Se não estiverem a estudar ou a trabalhar, os jovens.
The young people need to be involved in work, sports, church, or something, because other than that, like the proverb says, an empty mind is a workshop of the devil. So now answering your question directly, I would start by institutional changes. Firstly, the young people need to have real decision powers. We do not want symbolic positions. The youth needs to decide. On a daily basis, decisions are taken on behalf of the youth without listening to them. So what I think is that we should be part of the decision-making process. Secondly, is the budget. We need to invest in organizations and groups led by youth. Without investment, there is no inclusion. Without budget, there's no inclusion. Another aspect has to do with access to leadership. For the youth to have access to top leadership is quite difficult, quite bureaucratic, and we can simplify this. Still, on institutional changes, I would like to add another element, which is capacity building and training. If we want a collaboration between youth and elders, we need to create safe and regular platforms to have interaction and dialogue, and also to have mentorship. And then mentorship is where we have the most experienced one to teach the youth, but it's also important to note that the youth can also teach the older. So we need to reconstruct this mindset that only elders can teach the young. So we need to deconstruct this concept of leadership and experience. So I'm already changing from institutional to cultural. Of course, we can find wisdom in the youth. And then we also need to end stereotype where we say that the youth are violent and not updated and that only the elders are experienced. We can change that. We can collaborate. If an elder will teach us about life, about the experience, for instance, we can share how to adapt that to new technology, how to use social media. So we need to bring parity, we need to bring connection between the older generation that is more experienced and the youth. When we have dialogues in a hierarchy manner, and in Africa, this is very strong. We have a huge respect to the elders. This is important. But when the dialogue is only considered in this hierarchy manner, we obviously create a barrier to open dialogues because the youth will not express themselves freely. And those that do not have the opportunity to express themselves, to say what they think, to share their ideas, obviously these youth will create some kind of frustration. We politicians, we speak a lot, so please watch me on the mic. So let me conclude off by giving an example of a big businessman that during 16 times was considered the richest man. He was asked, "Where to is humanity going?" He said, "Look at the youth." As young people, we can not only be seen as leaders of tomorrow, we are architects of peace today. We are the present in the prevention and peace construction and the future and maintenance of this peace. In other words, we are present and future, not only future. Thank you.
And absolutely, I think we discussed a lot about the dialogue in the past hour or so, and it is a two-way stream. It's not only one side listening and the other one sharing the insights and perspectives. It's everybody collaboratively sharing opinions and listening. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for sharing your insights, your perspectives, but most importantly, your personal stories and examples from your own countries and context. I think this was very insightful also for our audience. Now, call for peace, that's why we are here today. The central idea of this initiative is to strengthen our renewed forward-looking vision that is centered on dialogue, cooperation, and sustainable peace. So a call for peace, the end of wars, and respect for international law initiative, as you've heard already before, started last year in Guernica, Spain, followed by an edition in Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina. There too, we gathered young people to discuss the youth-led peace building in their context and ignited the passion to carry on, to work together, to build a more peaceful world for all of us. So a call for peace gatherings are not just a standalone events, it's a kind of movement, it's a continuation of a shared commitment for peace. So in this context, one of the young participants, young leaders from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Ms. Nadira Churulia, a human rights and peacebuilding young professional, would like to share her call for peace message with you. And we should have a video message ready.
My call for peace is actually choosing peace as something that I will work on probably for the rest of my life, as I've been already working on it for a long time. How to contribute to peace building, how to find different ways to communicate peace in a way that everyone else understands it as a necessity and as a luxury, and to really hope that peace building and reconciliation, dealing with the past and everything else that entails a much, let's say, better future for all of us, a peaceful one, is something which is my call and my choosing through various ways that I do so. And I do believe that young people can lead a path to a more peaceful world simply through understanding firstly what peace building is, understanding that you can be a peace builder through 3 to 4 different ways, and also to understand that young people should have a seat at the table because they are the ones shaping the future. So that would be some of the ways.
Thank you. So even with that message, you could see that a lot of the things that we've heard from the panelists today were also discussed and shared and reiterated by the young people, first in Guernica in Spain and then later in Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I would like to use the last 2 or 3 minutes that we have left for this session to ask you if you have your final call for peace, your final message for not only young people, but for our audience, what it would be in 1 or 2 sentences maximum. Please, go ahead. Anybody that is ready? And Tabi, I can see you're ready.
I think my call for peace really much echoes what everybody here has been saying, to continue the dialogue, to continue having open spaces, to learn from each other, to learn about each other, to break bread, to engage so that there's those relationships that Chris mentioned, and to continue to always find those moments to find each other and connect, you know. So that would be my call, to continue the conversation.
Thank you. We have one more. Wevin?
I think my call for peace would be for all of us to take the message outside. A lot of the times we assume that young people have access to these messages or even communities. Similarly to how I'm using games, you can use your own creative ways. Use the conversations at the dinner table, at the lunch table, in the offices to spread the message for peace. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think with that our time is up. So I would like to thank our panelists, every single one of you, for sharing your insights and perspectives, and once again for your experiences and examples that you shared. I would like to ask the audience, please, to thank me, or like help to thank me, the audience, the panelists. Thank you.
Agradecemos à moderadora.
Thank you very much to the moderator and the different speakers for the contributions shared during this session. Before inviting you for lunch, I would like to inform you that we will come back to our sessions at 1400, not 14:30 like it is on the program, but we'll be back at 1400. And we will start with the third thematic sessions on women and women mediators at the front lines of peace, strengthening inclusive approach and dialogue. I would also like to remind you that at 1800 we will have basketball games at Citadel, both for male and female, and you are all invited to participate in this activity, which is part of this summit. We will have representatives of the UN, diplomatic corps, international organizations, athletes, and guests. It is a moment where sport is part of the peace values, harmonious cohabitations, and dialogue for sports. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll be back at 1400. Thank you.